Note the disclaimer. And also remember that everybody who supports me on Patreon got to see preview images, work in progress shots, and high-resolution images of the finished figures. If you want to join them, even the smallest donation helps. Link is in the description down below. Hello out there, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a dual commission. These are two Death Egg robots, one for Chaoshog 17 and another for Austin. They wanted the Death Egg robots as they appeared in the video games. So like the way that the Death Egg robot appeared as a boss in Sonic Generations and as well, I want to say a background elements in Sonic Forces, since we ended up not actually having to fight them directly. But yeah, I have made the Death Egg robot many times before, but this is the Death Egg robot video game accurate version. And I almost immediately regretted taking on that challenge because I had no freaking idea how I was gonna do it. This commission was originally given to me last October, and I've been working on them ever since. And it wasn't until several months into the project that I finally figured out the way to do the arms, because that's the real thing. Like every Death Egg robot I made before was comic book accurate, which has nice square forearms that's easy for me to fabricate. Round forearms, not so much. Anyway, let's get into this. So let's start with some familiar territory, the legs. This actually didn't take me very long to do at all, because it's almost exactly the same as any other Death Egg robot. I take a bionicle foot and I fabricate using a foam board, the Death Egg robot's foot around it. I also use craft foam as a nice stable element and as a bit of waterproofing. The shins are, again, the same thing. It's another, I'm going to call it a limb bionicle joint, although it's also part of Hero Factory, so Bionicle Hero Factory, that whole blanket Lego Technic action figure building kit stuff. Once that was on, I just had to, form the shin around it and attach it to the foot, making sure that there's enough slack so that there's room for an ankle rocker and real foot articulation. Otherwise, what's the point of having a ball-jointed foot, right? So with some kneecaps, the foot actually, these are legs. These look like the legs. But the thing is, the video game accurate version of the Death Egg robot needed to have different thighs than what I usually make. In the comic book, the thighs just look like two balls stacked onto each other, but in the video game, they have a much more cylindrical thing going on. I replicated this by building around the thigh bit, the thing that has the two cup joints that attach the balls on the hip and the knee. I used craft foam to make this double circle shaped thing and stacked it up on either side and then made a filler in the middle, creating what's essentially the thigh, which allows for the leg to move just as much as usual, but do so while looking like the thigh of a Death Egg robot. So with that, the legs are completed, and the usual way that I make the hips is I take that big white thingy that I'm not sure what you call it in Bionicle. Anyone who knows the proper names of these parts will probably correct me in the comments section below. I ordered them from Bricklink, so I used to know, but like I said, this was back in October. So yeah, the wrong trousers, Grommet. The robots have legs now. Hey, Kool-Aid! Alright, so my first ever Death Egg robot used the container tube for an original Bionicle figure as the central core, which also became the cockpit. Now the thing is, you can't really get those anymore because they don't sell Bionicles like that. But fortunately, there are other cylindrical containers with conveniently sized screw-on lids in the Kool-Aid containers. It makes 8 quarts of Kool-Aid and a fantastic toy when you're done with it. Haha. So yeah, this is just showing off the modifications I made to the Kool-Aid container itself. I had to cut away that little dome thing that they put on to make it easier to pour, and of course I removed the bottom part and made room so that it would accommodate the hip assembly which is inside the ball. I also had to make a floor. The height of the floor is made such that when you stick a Dr. Robotnik or Eggman figure inside, it should be just the right height that his head will peek out above the robot's neckline. Of course, you only ever see him when the robot's head is off, so, I never I feel like if my first Death Egg robot didn't have this feature built in, nobody would ask for it because it's such a minor feature that nobody really thinks about. But you know, knowing that it can be there, they want it, and I don't know. This just seems to be like an unnecessary part of the construction. But you know, whatever my commissioner wants, I try my best. All right, so moving on. Here's the upper half of the ball. I drew some guidelines for how the features are going to go on, so I would know where to make the cut. It has to be wide enough that the head can easily go on and off without being so wide that I don't have room to build the shoulders in. But you know, once done, funnily enough, because because of little idiosyncrasies with the shapes of various things, the two holes are slightly different sizes. Someday I'll find a way to mass produce these things easier. I'll probably become rich and famous and have my own toy factory with my own plastic injection molding plants, and I'll have them make all the parts to my exact specifications. But for now, this is basically a handcrafted thing, so that means making the backpack myself. It is made out of several pieces of foam board naturally. It's just a relatively simple box shape with I'm gonna say like the refueling hatch put on top. I like to think that that's like a giant gas cap, and it's like a battery pack that the thing is wearing. I didn't do all the wires and stuff because frankly I don't have a way to make that. Like I said, I'm working with my hands here. I don't have enough ways to make a whole bunch of fancy stuff like technological greeble and stuff. That's kind of beyond my abilities. But yeah, the robots have a simple backpack, and now they're actually painted up. So as of this point, like, this is what I had been putting off for quite a long time, trying to figure out how to make the robot's arms. Now, the skeleton of the arm is simple enough. It's just, you know, bionicle joints like everything else. So the articulation part's no big deal. But actually making that rounded forearm required me to do some real outside-the-box thinking, because this is a part that I would actually have to make from something else. I wouldn't be able to fabricate it from scratch. And that answer came to me in the form of some novelty plastic shot glasses from Party City. Oh yeah, you know, I do a lot of my custom shopping, like my paints, foam board, foam stuff. Most of that comes from stores like Michael's, but I gotta say, specifically for the Death Egg robots, Party City is a huge resource. So yeah, these plastic shot glass things were the right shape and size to make into the Death Egg robot's forearms, and they weren't so heavy that they would overpower the ball joints that I use for the limbs. The thing is that they are made out of a type of plastic that absolutely does not like being messed with. I seriously almost destroyed my Dremel's drill bit making the hole for the bionicle joint, and well, middle, I kind of filled my house with black smoke and ash trying to fix things. But yeah, that was an issue that went by, and as a result, we have some nice forearms. Now, for lack of a better word, the Death Egg robots have these big round hands on the ends of the forearms, which I was able to do with a Mega Construx Pokeball. It's funny how Pokeballs keep on factoring into the construction of Death Egg robots, right? Like, I used the Burger King ones to make the heads, and now Mega Construx has provided different sized Pokeballs that are great for the hands. The fingers, of course, are done by the same method as always. I take a simple dowel and sharpen it in a pencil sharpener. Then I cut the cone off to make a finger. Then I did this 12 times. I actually gave myself a blister on my hand in the process because apparently, since I haven't been drawing over the years, my fingers have gotten soft, and now I can't even sharpen a few pencils without giving myself a freaking bubble on my hand. The shoulders are made from Party City yo-yos. Yeah, these are like, I'd say they're party bag fillers. They're like 40 cents each. They're real cheap. Cheap as in inexpensive, not cheap as in poor quality, because breaking them apart into the two halves was very difficult to do. But yes, that is what the forearms look like side by side. One is the mass-produced version, and one is the proper version. And here are the two Death Egg robots nearing completion. At this point, they were only about a day or so away from completion, because the head is smooth sailing. So here's the lid from the Kool-Aid container. I used a Gundam marker to draw on the teeth. I know they look a little bit long, but, you know, most of this is going to be covered up by the torso anyway. Now here is that Burger King Pokeball once again. Remember, I used this to make Bowser Jr.'s little clown car, And yes, these are the same ones that had to be recalled because a 2-year-old accidentally killed herself with one. Very tragic, but you know, it was an accident, and you know, like we're all grown people. We're not going to be doing that to ourselves. So yeah, you take the ball, and I use craft foam to make the robot's face, which you know, it's just kind of like bent and molded over the front of it. And then all the details are put on. For the mass-produced robot, it's just one big old Cylon eye. And for the proper version, it's a little Eggman face, including a nose, mustache, and ears. So with that being done, all that was left to do was screw these things back on, and here we have some Death Egg robots. Completely constructed! And man, seeing it after all this time, it really makes me feel some relief, because man, this has been on my head for such a long time. Like, I really need to finish these, I really need to finish these, I really need to finish these, and they're finally done. Now, it's really annoying having to unscrew the head and screw it back on for the cockpit gimmick. I would encourage my commissioners to try and not use that cockpit gimmick too much, because it's really hard to make sure that it catches straight. You know, like, these lids, they don't want to go back on straight. They're not very precisely machined because they're just disposable little things. I mean, it can be done, but it's just annoying to do is what I'm getting at. Especially because the proper one's ears kind of hit that little gas cap thing because of measurements. I should have made the ears a little bit smaller, but I wanted to make them look more like the first Death Egg robot I made. Sorry about that. But hey, they're still really great action figures of the Death Egg robots with all the same articulation that my previous Death Egg robots have always had. Ankle rockers, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows. And I guess if you don't screw the heads on all the way, you can get something resembling a neck joint, but you know, that's just the thing. So thank you all for sticking with me and watching this video. I actually have to make another Death Egg robot, but it should be in the comic book style again, and we'll see you next time.